What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Eternally Disappointed podcast. I want to say thank you to Rainstorm Energy. It's a plant-based clean energy drink that is pretty much gives you the same kind of little lift that a cup of coffee will do. It doesn't blow you up and then have you crash because it's not loaded with sugar. And this is coming from a guy who used to drink 3 Monsters a day. For a long time, I was hooked on a non-carbonated energy drink that came in a 16-ounce can. This comes in a 12-ounce can. You don't feel bloated. The carbonation is very light. It'll help you out in the morning. And if you're really hurting like me right now, I'm having this about 2.5 hours before I do jiu-jitsu. It's not going to make me feel any worse. It just kind of gives me that extra little wake up I need from a long day and kind of a long week. So big shout out to our sponsor, Rainstorm. Trying to get some videos done earlier than Wednesday, obviously. A lot of stuff's happened. But because they moved the Buffalo game until Monday, and then yesterday my son had a football game, the first football game of his season. He's 11 years old, so we don't play really close where we live. We play down in Palm Beach County, Florida, where the big boys play, where pretty much the best skill position players in the world come from, or in the NFL come from. My son's a quarterback and a defensive end, so he's not necessarily playing with people that he's going to be competing with for skill position jobs, but still he's playing in a league down there. And so because of traffic north of Palm Beach County, it takes a long time to get there. I didn't have the time to do a video yesterday, but nonetheless, here we are today. So much to get to, man. I didn't even have enough time to talk about what a devastating loss for the Cowboys was. I'm actually going to do a different video on why I think Mike McCarthy's being treated unfairly, even though I've never looked at him as more than a buffoon who had Aaron Rodgers make him look good. So we had the Monday games, Buffalo and Pittsburgh. And I hate when I get comments, whether it's on my channel or comments that I make on other videos, and I'm critical of Buffalo in victory, because it sounds like I'm a hater, or it sounds like a person that can never be satisfied. But I had to live my entire adult life until a couple of years ago through the lens of watching the Patriots play almost perfect football for 20 years. And when I see the mistakes that Buffalo makes on a consistent basis, is why I'm critical. I would love nothing more than a 20-year Josh Allen dynasty in Buffalo and 6 Super Bowl championships and the AFC championship every year. But we're not going to get that because the talent isn't backed up by the intelligence. So Buffalo comes out against Pittsburgh, and they look like how Buffalo should look. They go out and they put the foot on the gas. They score. They're holding well on defense. And it's looking like we're going to go to halftime leading 21-0. And with 2 minutes and 39 seconds left in the half, all Sean McDermott had to do was run the ball, and it's either going to go to the 2-minute warning, or, actually, let me back up a little bit. Let me back up just a little bit before that happened. There's a play sequence, a play starts, and they have Josh Allen throw the ball 3 times in a row. That's the first mistake. Stop having Josh Allen open drives with 3 straight passes. Stop. Stop fucking doing it. Okay? He has a high liability possibility, or I don't even know if that's the right way to say it. But if he has high chances of being a high liability when you're throwing that much. The success came when we mixed it up and ran the ball. Run the fucking ball. Okay? So we punt them down to the 7-yard line, and we almost let Mason Rudolph drive 93 yards and score a fucking touchdown. But he turned into Mason Rudolph, and we got an interception. Okay? We're up 21-0, 2 minutes and 39 seconds left in the half. Pittsburgh has all 3 timeouts. All McDermott needs to do is run the ball, because I think we're on their 33-yard line, because they make it a 50-yard field goal. And the broadcast even said 50 yards in that wind at that goalpost was the max they were able to hit, and they were struggling. Okay, no problem. Run the ball. It's either going to go to the 2-minute warning, and then we punt it and pin them deep, hopefully, or they call a timeout. We're still going to punt it. They're just going to have less ability to stop the clock. But instead, this fucking idiot throws the ball. The clock is stopped. Then he tries a field goal from way too far away in those conditions. And it gets blocked and fucking sent 40 yards into our own territory. And we go into halftime with only a 2-score lead. And they have a little bit of momentum. And then we come out in the second half and run the 3 shittiest plays I've ever seen. And we have to punt them the ball. Eventually leading to the point where it becomes a 7-point game when it should never have been a 7-point game. It should have been over at halftime. It should have been done with. But that's Sean McDermott. That is why, or he's one reason why, the main reason, I made this video series, podcast, channel, whatever you want to call it, saying Buffalo wasn't going to make the playoffs. Now, I was right until a bunch of quarterbacks got injured. Because if Herbert, Lawrence, or Burrow stayed healthy, they would have gotten playoff spots over us. Because Buffalo can't beat Cincinnati, and they don't know how to fly to England early enough to get acclimated to the time change to beat Jacksonville. And then we played a Justin Herbert-less Chargers team and barely beat them. And I don't even think they had Keenan Allen that day. I'm getting fired up already thinking about McDermott because he pisses me off so bad. And I looked and told my son, the same son who predicted that the Cowboys were going to get crushed. I said, bro, if we lose this game, McDermott has to be fired. He needs to be fired. If we don't win the Super Bowl, he needs to be fired. Because my guess is we're not going to win the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship or maybe even this weekend on something he's responsible for. He may not call the plays on offense. But if I'm sitting there, I'm not going to let Joe Brady throw Josh Allen 3 times in a row. Now, if it's under 2 minutes, there's situations where it's acceptable. We're not starting the drive off that way. You can throw on first, run on second. Figure it out. So we eventually pull away. Eventually what was supposed to happen happens, and now we're going to host Kansas City in the AFC divisional round. I'm upset because Kansas City played Saturday and our game got pushed to Monday. So they have 2 days of extra rest. And you can say, okay, that really doesn't matter. But look at Terrell Bernard. Terrell Bernard, I didn't even see, they're like, oh, you could see his leg move. I didn't necessarily see the injury. So I didn't think it was a compound fracture. I didn't think it was anything more. I said maybe it was a tib-fib fracture up near the knee where it's not quite as strong. And, you know, one of those things where dudes still walk on it, but it's just a little bit broken. If you train Muay Thai or you've ever watched Muay Thai kickboxing, you know what I'm talking about. It turns out it's an ankle sprain. And what if his ankle sprain is good enough to play 2 days after we play? And now we have to go in without our other starting linebacker because Milano's been out. So we've got AJ Klein coming out of his RV on the way to Key West, signing the practice squad playing. It's shit like that. Diggs got hurt. He came back in the game, but he eventually got banged up after Pittsburgh scored when there was time and Buffalo was trying to make something happen. So because fucking McDermott is an idiot, he gets his number 1 receiver hurt temporarily. And you never know what would have happened with the Bernard play because if they were still down 3 scores, it could have been different. It is what it is. The thing is McDermott is a problem. His idiot play calling could be the downfall of us, and that's why I've said from the beginning he has to go. Josh Allen played beautifully. I wish some of the play calls were different. He fooled the shit out of me. I was like, please slide. And then he blew through that defender and took off, and he is fast. He runs like a maniac, and he's got good top-end speed. He's like Derrick Henry in that way. Like, takes him a couple steps, but if he gets an open field, like, even DBs aren't catching him. So, Buffalo moves on. I'm going to give my prediction later about that. Now we transition to the night game. I knew Philly was going to lose. A lot of people didn't think Philly was going to lose. The only thing I hate about how bad Philly lost was it makes Baker Mayfield look way better than he is. Baker Mayfield's on a team that's loaded with talent. So it's easy to look good when you're loaded with talent. Mike McCarthy looks great. Mike McCarthy had Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback and made him look very good. He has the most loaded team or the second most loaded team in the league for 3 years running, and he looks like he's a good coach. If he's so good, why is he in the hot seat? So Philly goes into Tampa, and they look completely unprepared. Tampa pretty much just did one thing on defense. They said, we're just going to blitz the shit out of you. And nobody in Philadelphia figured out a way to counter that blitz. I was listening to Chris Long's podcast earlier. I actually really like his insight. And one of the things he was mentioning was, he's like, he says, the defensive line got a little bit older, and the level of play in the secondary came down just a little bit. And that doesn't seem too bad. Defensive line gets a little older, secondary's not playing quite as well. But if you think about why they call it complementary football, and this is why I can't stand people like Skip Bayless who make everything all about one person. You could have an okay defensive backfield. You got to have an okay secondary. But if you have a really good defensive line that's giving pressure almost every snap, it's going to make that secondary appear to be better than it is, because you're going to have quarterbacks completing less passes because they're under pressure more often than not. If you have a really good secondary that can pretty much produce a bunch of coverage sacks, you're going to have an okay defensive line, because eventually they're going to get there. And the secondary is the reason that the quarterback's not completing any passes, or he's getting sacked, or whatever. So it's easy to get numbers skewed. So you think about the defensive line is playing just a little bit below where they were, and the defensive backfield is playing just a little bit below where they were before, because it's an effect. Defensive line doesn't play as well, secondary doesn't have as much time, and they probably regress a little bit, and it creates a very explosive Philadelphia defense. The offense, I don't know what their idea is for their scheme. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know if it's just somebody playing Madden calling plays for them, but everything seems to be Jalen Hurts run, or some sort of a weird, it's like third and 9, we're going to run a wide receiver screen. I don't get it. I don't know why they're doing that. Sirianni has a lot to figure out. I'm surprised he still has a job, because Philly will fire anybody. But it just seems to me like he lost his coordinators and the team lost its way, and they're in for a long offseason. But as long as Dallas isn't in the playoffs, that eases things a lot. I think if Dallas was still in the playoffs, Philly fans would be more upset. But the fact that Dallas lost makes it easier for Philly to be like, we were in the Super Bowl, then next year we lost in the wild card. We can deal with that. So that's my thoughts on those two games. We've got a really, really good divisional round coming up. Really good divisional round. I'm going to do a video on it. And we've got UFC 297, and fucking UFC 300 is looking stacked. So we've got a lot coming up. I'm going to have a lot of videos coming out. But yeah, let's kick this thing off, man. This week's going to be dynamite. I'll see you guys tomorrow with my predictions and how I think the games are going to go, what it's going to be like. Hope you like the video. Like and subscribe and leave comments, good or bad. I don't care. Don't be an asshole. I won't be an asshole back. But if you're an asshole, I'm going to be a huge asshole back, because I don't give a fuck. All right, guys, I'm off to jiu-jitsu practice. I'll see you next time. Thank you.